G'day there guys, it's Connie here from Marky Industries and we are back with some more stories from Reddit. As always, if you enjoy these videos, be sure to hit like and subscribe and also the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Alrighty, let's get right into it. Okie dokie, we're on relationships. This one was written by user Bathdub Mermaid and it's titled, "Our rock-solid relationship imploded in a single night and I'm completely blindsided. My partner is my rock, and I'm his. Literally, he tells me that all the time, including yesterday. We've been together for 5 years and have a truly wonderful relationship. Always talking, laughing, comfortable with one another. Able to communicate even when we disagree. After I survived abuse as a child and struggled with unhealthy romantic relationships in the past, the fact that we love each other in a respectful, secure and profoundly healthy way is truly my biggest blessing. And I wake up every day so happy and grateful for him. He is an incredible man with so much drive, intelligence, kindness, and gifts to give the world. About 1.5 years ago, it came up for the first time that we saw ourselves getting married one day. It was such a beautiful moment, and it rocked my world to have been vulnerable, said those words, and have him say them too. Since then, it's been something incredibly happy that I get to hold in my heart and look forward to. The subject has come up sporadically since then, but I haven't wanted to push it too far since we are young, and it's very much an eventually thing. Both of our parents are divorced, and his come from money. He got a lot of strong advice growing up, not to marry young and to protect his assets, to see it from a more financial view than I've ever thought of it. Nevertheless, the thought makes me happy, and we often daydream about the future we'll build together, the little house in New Hampshire we hope to buy, and the dogs and chickens we'll have. These are conversations he participates in and brings up on his own all the time. I want to be able to talk casually about the marriage aspect too. Go to bed with the sleepy, can't wait to marry you or love of my life. But for some reason, recently, whenever the subject has come up, he's clammed up and made it feel really serious. This culminated maybe 2 months ago with a really weird conversation in which I sensed he might not have processed what marriage really means to him in the way that I had, and that he wasn't ready to be talking about this in the way that I was, or as much as he'd let on. I told him I don't want to put a gun to his head, this is just something that makes me happy to think about and talk about, and I tell him everything. I said I love him for him, I'd wait as long as he needs, but that I firmly didn't want to bring up the subject again until he was comfortable discussing it. I wanted to relieve the pressure on him, and I haven't mentioned it since. Well, yesterday we spent a really lovely day getting lunch and hiking with my family. They live far away, so we don't see them very often. My stepsister and her fiancé were there as well, and of course there was a little bit of light conversation about their upcoming wedding. My boyfriend was his usual friendly, easygoing self. I noticed he seemed quiet on the way home, and later that evening, so I asked if he was worried about work, but he just said he was tired from a long day travelling. I made him a drink, kissed him on the forehead like I always do, and promised we could do whatever he wanted to relax that night. Just did what I normally do when I can tell he's stressed, try to show empathy and take care of him. But then, as I'm making dinner, he comes over to me and drops this bomb. He came over to me crying and said spending time with an engaged couple, and even barely talking about their wedding, had sent him into a panic, and he didn't know if he could ever see himself getting married. I was completely blindsided. I tried to pass what he was saying, but it was like my brain was stuck. Evidently, he'd been locking himself in his office at work all week, crying about this. I kept asking him why he would say he wanted to marry me if he didn't. He said he was lying, basically, that he wanted to give me what he knew I wanted to make me happy. I could only just stare at him open-mouthed. I kept trying to pinpoint if he was saying to me that I don't think I'll be ready to get married for a long time, or I don't think I'll ever be ready to get married. And I really don't think he knows himself. I don't think he's processed a marriage at all, and this is the first time it's hitting him. He kept saying stuff about not knowing where his career will lead, or if he'll have money. He has a great job, an outstanding network, and is definitely not poor. Neither of us are. And I was just like, we're a partnership. You wanted to be with me yesterday. You want to be with me today. Do you want to be with me tomorrow? Yes, he said. I said, well, that's all what matters. We have a life we love, and we'll take on the future together one day. I'm devastated. He left for his stepmother's house and I don't know when he'll be home. I cannot take another sleeping pill or my heart will stop, but I can't sleep a wink. I literally spiked 100-degree fever and spent all night sweating and freezing. I had no idea it was possible to be in so much pain it makes you physically sick. This person is the bedrock of my life. We have always had rock-solid confidence that we can trust each other, be vulnerable around each other, and be our full authentic selves without inhibition of fear or judgment. We share everything together and we're best friends. He even said that over and over as he sobbed, and told me he loved me and that he didn't want to get married. Hours ago, I had the most beautiful and solid relationship in the world. Now I don't know if we're going to break up. I'm reeling. I feel like I've been stabbed in the back by my safe space. The earth fell out from under me, and I don't even know what to think anymore. What do I even do or say to save this? Was I too strong in voicing my desire to get married that I scared him off? Has anyone else gone through something similar? It's interesting how sure Opie is of her, solid relationship and communication skills, and yet this all spawned from a lack of communication. Seems like there was a pretty serious breakdown in what they were doing at some point. Let's go to the comments. A lot of commenters are really drawing firm lines in the sand here, but I think this is really a question you have to ask yourself, OP. I agree with something someone else said. There's an outsized response with your boyfriend with regards to marriage, and maybe now that he's not so terrified to tell you his feelings about getting married himself, he may be able to express his thoughts regarding marriage to you soon. If you've always communicated and have been able to always talk, that hasn't changed. This talk just hurts more. I think you owe it to yourself and your relationship to figure out the why. You also owe it to yourself to decide if this is a deal breaker, no matter what his reasoning. There are two questions here. Why does your boyfriend have such fear of getting married? If he's unable or unwilling to get over those fears, are you okay with never marrying him? Even the best relationships with the best communication need help sometimes, OP. It may be worth considering finding a good relationship counsellor and having them mediate this talk. It's going to be tough. So, he doesn't want to get married, but you mentioned that he has divorced parents and a traumatized childhood. You also said that he sounded like a scared kid when telling you this. This behavior sounds like it's a trauma response to stress and not an actual issue with you or the relationship. His fear of marriage is probably directly related with feelings and behaviors he developed as a self-defense mode when he was a kid, watching his parents fight and divorce. A lot of people who go to therapy find that their unwanted behaviors actually started when they were kids. It sounds like he needs to do some counseling or therapy to deal with those deep issues. Be supportive and encouraging, and see if he's willing to go see a counselor. Quote, "We have always had rock-solid confidence that we can trust each other, be vulnerable around each other, and be our full authentic selves without inhibition or fear of judgment." I mean, you still do. There's not much more open, emotionally honest and vulnerable than what your boyfriend just showed and shared with you. The question I ask myself reading this story, why does your boyfriend react like getting married is him agreeing to 50 cane slashes on the bare feet every 2 weeks? What he displays is not a rational response, outside of being threatened to relive torture. There are discussions to be had around marriage, yes. It's first and foremost a legal contract. What are the obligations we subject ourselves to? What are legal defaults? What are options that are available? Which do we need? How is money handled? Both are equally working, etc. But this is not it. Threatening marriage should not trigger this, whatever that is. Your boyfriend is obviously mentally hurt and unwell. Yeah, that's a good point. The boyfriend's response is so unwarranted that, there's got to be something else going on here. Some great comments there. On to an update. I just want to say thank you to every person who commented. I was in an absolute state while writing my original post, and truly thought 8 people would see it. I read every comment. The kind and empathetic advice I received gave me a little bit of hope and peace as I waited, and that was basically the only reason I was able to eat lunch those first 2 days. I want to thank all of you for that. The long and short of it is, he left me. I called him the next day asking when he would come home. He'd told me he needed a day to think, but he was talking like we were broken up. I asked him to at least tell me we're still together. He wouldn't. So He just torched it in pretty much an instant. I've been leaning on a lot of the kind words I received from folks who reassured me that one fight does not need to derail everything we've built over the last 5 years. I took the perspective that the question of marriage was something that we'd need to discuss seriously and hopefully through therapy to arrive at what both of us want. I had no idea he would just upend the table with no warning, without ever expressing his feelings or giving us the chance to address it with even a single conversation. So many of the comments I received revolved around the question, is not marrying him a deal breaker for you? Would you be okay with simply a long-term relationship? I don't know. I would have to search my soul for that answer, but I didn't even get the chance. He made that choice for me. 5 beautiful years, and he just frickin' left. Needless to say, there were a million better ways to do this while honouring his fears and feelings, while still showing me an ounce of respect as his partner and someone who loves him. This owed a conversation, and even if we still reached the same conclusion, I would understand. But this? It's not what I deserve. I did see him one night and we'd been texting. He said all of this awful stuff about how he was just trying to tell me everything I wanted to hear, and how I wouldn't like the person he really is underneath all of his people-pleasing. He's got a lot of this, don't talk about it, just run, in his family, including in his parents' relationship. My partner has always said he doesn't respect this kind of behaviour and talked vehemently about how his values are different. Then he just did the same thing. Although when I wrote my original post I wanted nothing more than to continue living our happy day-to-day together, but given this entire nightmare, space is the only thing that can do anything for either of us at this point. He has no idea what he's feeling or how to talk about it in a healthy way. My dad had the simplest take and yet said it best. He's immature. He needs to work on himself, and I hope he does. As for me, I'd be an idiot to still want to marry him, knowing this is the kind of thing he's capable of. So we've got to break our lease. Apartment hunting while still reeling from this 180 flip of my life has been terrible. We moved to this city together, and pretty much every friend I have I met through him, so I'm really scared it will mean losing a lot of other people I love too. It's going to be expensive and miserable to live on my own, and I'm still grieving my sweet love and the life I thought we were going to have together. I gave 5 years of my life, and so much of myself to being one half of that partnership. I never wanted to be on my own again, and now I am. I still love him, but I can't wait around while he fixes himself, or pine foolishly, hoping one day he'll wake up and be ready for me. I don't want to stand on my own 2 feet, but that's just what I have to do. My question now is, how do I move on? If and when we do eventually talk, what can I even say? Yeah, an interesting question, and not one I think I have the answers to. Let's read some final comments. That first paragraph really feels obsolete after reading the whole thing. Every time, they always have to start with how amazing the relationship is, and then follow it up with the most dysfunctional crap you've ever heard. I feel like what she perceived as healthy communication was him actually catering to her and bottling up frustrations. When marriage talks made the situation a lot more serious, he realized he couldn't live like that for the rest of his life and ran for the hills. People pleasers end up hurting themselves and the people they care about in the long run. The ex is definitely going through something, being such a people pleaser and then realizing it can't carry on like that. I get the breakdown. It was totally not okay to just end things so suddenly without explanation, but I don't think he's able to confront her in his state. I really feel for the OP. She not only lost a huge person in her life, but she also realized what they had was basically a lie. That's going to leave scars. Please let this be an ounce of warning to everyone to not 100% dependently interweave your life with your partner, especially before a real commitment has been made. I'm not saying you shouldn't mix anything, of course you should, and healthier/more mature people might be able to mix more parts of their lives faster without serious damage. But things like moving to a new city where they know people and you don't, making all of your friends through them, not bothering to make many friends because you just want your partner, sharing bank accounts or credit cards, and being completely separated from everyone in your family, biological or chosen. Well, it's these things that make breakups 1,000 times harder than they need to be, because you're losing so much more than just your romantic partner. Losing your significant other and all your friends in one swoop is enough to put anyone into a dangerous state of mind, even more so if you've also moved hours away from anyone who isn't directly linked to that same person. This sounds judgmental, but it's half from personal experience and half from reading so many threads where people just get in way too deep with their partner and forget to stand on their own 2 feet. It's kinda mean to say, but what if you break up? To a perfectly happy couple, and maybe they never will. However, it's something you should think to yourself from time to time if you don't want to risk feeling like your life is completely decimated in the event something bad happens. I guess to put it in a more concise way, if each person is a house, then a relationship should be like putting in an addition or renovating one room at a time. Don't start destroying exterior walls or taking out important support beams for another person. You need to make sure that if a storm comes, at least the original house will stay standing. Okay, maybe not the best metaphor. I'm usually better at these, but I just smoked. I think you guys get what I'm saying though. Yeah, I think we do. Anyway, that's the end of that story. But yeah, some good sentiments in the comments there. I definitely think it's very important to maintain, a sense of independence, even if you're in a long-term relationship. What do you guys think? I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Anyway, let's move on to another story. Okay, we're on relationship advice. This one was written by a throwaway account, and it's titled, "My boyfriend's ex hid a note about his cleaning and dating habits right before they broke up that I just found. How do I talk to him about cleaning habits without him feeling like I'm using his ex's words against him? I, 28 female, and my boyfriend, 30, who we'll call Steve, have been together for 2 years and have been living together for 8 months. I was cleaning our apartment when I found a note in the back of a cabinet. For context's sake, I'll copy it below. Dear Steve's future girlfriend, I know it's you reading this because he'd never clean back here. I'm putting this here because I'm leaving him soon and want to warn you about him. 1. He will not clean. 2. He will not listen. And 3. He will make everything feel like it's your fault. It's not your fault. He's just an incompetent man. I'm leaving him. I suggest you do the same. Best wishes, Natalia." I read the note and brought it to show to him and hear his response. He immediately ripped it up and said not to listen to it, that she was crazy and untrustworthy. I told him that the fact he hasn't found it in the 5 years since they broke up is a red flag to me, because it does mean he's never cleaned back there, and that he's been cleaning less and less since I moved in. He told me that it wasn't a problem before the note. This is just his ex continuing to manipulate and ruin his life, and I was letting it work. We continued to argue along the same lines, and I eventually left to spend the night at a friend's place. Steve has been a great boyfriend so far. He gets along with my family. He has given me gifts and flowers and always tells me how much he loves me. He's not wrong that the cleaning hasn't really been brought up before. The note made me realize it had been less and less and that we needed to have a full conversation. He texted me afterwards saying he's sorry that I felt like I had to leave, but that it's an a-hole move for me to take a note over our 2-year relationship and to leave him and our pets alone. I don't know what to do or what to believe right now. I'm contemplating trying to find and reach out to Natalia. Her name in real life is pretty unique, so I think I could find her. Steve thinks I should come back home and let it go, that his past shouldn't affect our future. I feel like I could be the a-hole because everything Steve has said about Natalia does make it sound like she was manipulative and petty throughout their relationship, but I don't know what to trust. Edit, I realized I didn't clarify enough about the points, especially the cleaning. Thought I'd add it here. When we moved in together 8 months ago, the cleaning was 50-50. Since then, he's been doing things less and less, and I'd say it's at like 70-30, maybe 60-40 if he listens to me right away. It depends on the week. I have to remind him to do things like bring his plates to the sink or take out the trash, and I didn't have to before. The dishes will pile up, unless I do them, to the point he's had leftover food mold on the plates. I'm not a confrontational person, so I was just asking him to fix it when it came up. The note made me reflect on it more and try to have an actual full conversation, and I will say I didn't feel listened to when I talked to him about it. I tried to use the note to start a conversation about cleaning, and he got so stuck on that I was listening to his ex instead of him that he wouldn't listen to what I think are valid concerns. He thinks I'm letting the note have confirmation bias, so no matter what he says, I'll think he's in the wrong. Also, I didn't leave him permanently. This all happened yesterday, and I only spent one night at a friend's because I didn't feel like our conversation was going anywhere last night, and he wouldn't let me sleep until I let it go. I'm going back today and wanted to get advice and feedback before I do. Edit 2. I appreciate all these comments with advice. I'm heading back to our place now. My plan is to first apologise for immediately bringing him the note without thinking of his feelings and validate that it's hard to have an ex's message found. That being said, you're all right that I've been letting the cleaning stuff get away. I don't want to be in a relationship where I have to ask him repeatedly to clean. It was pointed out to me that he should have cleaned the shelves during his move from his ex's place. The fact that it hasn't been touched in 5 years is forcing me to take the note seriously. I don't want to throw away 2 years, so I'm going to ask him to come up with some clear cleaning expectations with me and designated chores. I'll make it clear that cleaning is absolutely a deal breaker for me. It's his decision on how he wants to respond. I'll try to update you all. Again, thank you so much for the advice. And let's check those comments out. Kinda sounds like everything she warned you about in the note came true. He had never cleaned there. He didn't listen to your concerns, and he turned it back around on you and somehow made it your fault. Red flag, honestly. Anyone who lets mold grow on plates deserves to be single. I'm surprised you lasted this long. Okay, so here's a list of red flags. Called his ex crazy? She might be, but most people aren't. Has been slowly reducing his cleaning to the point where he won't even put plates in the sink, just like the note said. Never cleaning in the hiding spot once in 5 years, just like the note said. When you tried to talk about it, he didn't listen to you, just like the note said, and proceeded to make this fight your fault for taking the note seriously instead of acknowledging his deteriorating cleanliness, just like the note said. I'd be willing to bet money on the note being right. He sounds like the kind of man that will stop doing anything at all the second he's decided a woman is fully trapped. The slow tapering off you're witnessing is him testing the waters. He needs to figure out whether he just needs to waste enough of your time to get to that stage, or whether you need a ring or a baby to feel trapped. So, what is your experience with the number 2 and number 3 of Natalia's note? Did you see some truth in her words there with your own past experiences with Steve? Opie replies, he does listen to me, I think. Like when he gets me flowers, he knows my favourite. We have some hobbies in common and love to talk about them. I feel like the most he's not listened is in this situation because he refused to get past the fact that I'm listening to his ex over him. That being said, since we moved in together, I do feel like he's putting in less effort when it comes to starting conversations or initiating quality time. To number 3, this is hard for me to answer. I think I can be a people pleaser and tend to think things are my fault anyway, but he's never directly said, that's your fault when it comes to conflict. Opie makes an update. I followed your advice from the last post and tried to have a calm discussion with Steve. When I apologised for confronting him with the note, he seemed to take that as an admission of guilt and refused to listen to anything else. I had come up with a list of specific instances of not cleaning, like many of you suggested, and he said I was using lists just like his manipulative ex did. So yeah, the crazy ex thing you all said was a red flag was definitely true. When I realised the conversation wasn't going anywhere, he even tried to block me from leaving. That's when I knew it was done, and left immediately. 2 years down the drain, but I'm glad I had the wake-up call before it was too late. I'll let him cool off, and then we'll ask my brother to come with me to grab my things while he's not there. He has a strict work schedule, so I think it'll work out. I'm planning on leaving a note there, but probably a little longer with the advice to not show it to him. I'm leaving it in the exact same place, so if he doesn't learn his lesson about cleaning, it'll come to haunt him. All he has to do is clean. The biggest surprise out of all of this is that I didn't reach out to Natalia, she reached out to me. Apparently he borrowed his friend's phone to call her, screaming that she's ruining his life still. The fact that she blocked him and he still had her number memorized just further confirms he was the crazy ex, not her. Natalia found me on social media and wanted to make sure I was okay, and was especially concerned that he'd gaslight me like he tried with her. I thanked her for leaving me the note and saving me time. We scheduled coffee for Thursday afternoon. I wanted to thank you all again for the advice. especially the person who posted the Love is Respect website. I took the healthy relationship quiz after our conversation, and it wasn't great. You called out how he was waning me into an unhealthy relationship so well. For now, my friend said I can stay until I find a new place. I have emergency savings and a decent job, so I'm in a privileged place when it comes to this messy breakup, and I'm just trying to feel grateful for that. Just posted my final update separately. Thank you all for everything. Yeah, I'm interested to hear what sort of information the ex has on this guy. Let's go to that final update. As you can tell by my original post, I like to do things right away. It was definitely a mistake to bring him the note right away, but doing the things I did this morning right away was not a mistake, as it allowed me to save my pets. First, I want to respond to the comments saying I broke up a 2-year relationship over a note and chores. No, I broke up a 2-year relationship because when I tried to come up with solutions to an unequal situation, his response was to yell and try to convince me there was no problem except me. The final straw was when he physically blocked me from leaving the house after he was screaming at me. That is not okay, and no one should stay with a man who responds to conflict like that. The actual update. I wound up texting the post to Natalia last night and she thought it was great. She, like some of you, asked me about the pets. For context, one of the things Steve and I connected on was our love for little creatures. It's why I thought he was such a great guy, because if he could take such intricate care of his lizard, he could do the same with me. I was very wrong. He has one lizard he bought before me, and then we bought 2 frogs together. I have a snake I brought with me when I moved in. I was planning on waiting until he cooled down to go grab my things and the frogs and snake, thinking he would never hurt them, but Natalia changed my mind. She said he could get destructive when he's mad and was concerned about the safety of my little guys. I immediately knew I couldn't wait until later this week and reached out for a meeting with the landlord for early this morning. I wound up FaceTiming with Natalia last night and we had a long discussion. Natalia is a lawyer and told me that in our state, landlords are required to let me get out of the lease I signed in cases of domestic violence. She also told me that his yelling, gaslighting, and refusing to let me leave are all types of abuse. It's definitely hard for me to sit with that, but the Love is Respect relationship quiz helped me also realize that a bit more last night. Apparently his constant messaging and control over what I wore and when were signs of abuse too. Anyway, this morning Natalia volunteered to come talk to the landlord with me alongside my brother. As soon as he heard the word lawyer, he was on top of it and said I could break the lease, but would still have to pay for all of August even though I'm leaving 3 days early. I felt like that was fair. He also messaged Steve to say the apartment needed to be empty for emergency maintenance all day today so I could pack my things. Steve messaged back that he was at work all day and wouldn't be home until 6 p.m. When I got into the apartment, it was a mess. He had broken my dishes that I'd brought with me on the ground and left the shards laying about. My clothes were ripped up and scattered around our room. It was disgusting and heartbreaking. He left his lizard alone, but opened the tank doors for our frogs and my snake. Luckily, the frogs were still chilling in their enclosure, but my snake had gotten loose. This made me the most mad, as she could have gotten cut on the broken plates. I feel so fortunate that she was just hiding in the closet corner, and I was able to pack her up safely in her enclosure again. All my things are packed, and I'm writing this as my brother drives me back to my friend's house right now. Natalia told me that she actually left 3 notes, one in the cabinet, one on the underside of the vacuum, and one in the crumb catcher of the toaster. While we were there, we checked to see if the notes were still there. The one on the vacuum was, but it looks like Steve did clean out the crumb catcher at least once in the past 5 years. He never told me he'd already found a note in our conversations, so it caught me by surprise. Natalia and I left the vacuum note as is and replaced the cabinet one. I wasn't comfortable leaving my name on a new note, so my addition was a handout on healthy versus unhealthy relationships and a QR code to the quiz that woke me up. I'll put it in the comments. I'm not sure if I can have an outside link. Natalia said if he didn't find the notes in those 5 years, especially after the move, he probably won't find them again. I'm inclined to agree, especially given he did find one but then didn't even clean the rest of the house to see if there was any more. Steve doesn't make sense to me, and seeing the state of the apartment really woke me up to the fact that I have no idea who he is. The Steve I knew would never put animals in danger, but I don't think I really ever knew Steve. To the people saying it's pathetic that I broke up my relationship because of chores and Reddit, I encourage you to reflect on the subtle ways that abuse starts. This Reddit thread woke me up to it and gave me the resources to get out safely before it got any worse. I also made an appointment for a therapist. I'm very lucky that my job has good insurance, so I should be able to work through this relationship, and I'm hoping to focus on boundaries and my people-pleasing habits so I never find myself in this situation again. To the people wishing that Natalia and I would get together, we had a good laugh about it. Natalia is engaged to a wonderful man who cleans, listens and reflects. She said there's a phenomenon that when people break up with their awful ex, their soulmate can quickly follow. I'm hoping that's true. Regardless, I do think I got a good friend out of this, especially since Natalia is a snake mum too. This is my final update. I hope if you learn anything from my experience, it's that abuse doesn't start right away. First, there's love bombing, gifts and pretty words, and then slowly they test how much you'll put up with. You should never have to put up with anything, especially mouldy frickin' plates. Now for some final comments. Natalia received the assignment Demonstrate Sisterhood and aced the test. I'm so sorry that Steve proved all of us, including Natalia, right on how crappy he is. Can you go after him for the destruction of property? Opie replies, honestly, I just want to put this behind me. Most of the clothes were ones he bought me. I thought they were sweet gifts, but looking back on it, I'm realizing he pushed my style out for the one he prefers. He liked to dress me exactly the way he wanted, so I'm okay leaving the clothes behind. I can get new dishes and new clothes that fit me. I have my pets and that's all that matters to me. Quote, the Steve I knew would never put animals in danger, but I don't think I ever really knew Steve. That really freaks me the frick out in these posts. The idea that you can know someone enough to start working on a life together, but not actually know them. It makes me wonder what % of abusers masking do it specifically on purpose to trap someone, and what % just happen to have nothing trigger their worst instincts and behaviours. It's hard to imagine the bulk of stealth abusers being patient masterminds working a long con. Quote, but it looks like Steve did clean out the crumb catcher at least once in the past 5 years. Steve probably didn't have a choice for that one. The paper and crumbs mix would have started smoking at some point. An Opie snake, a western hognose. She's the cutest. Her name is Raspberry because she's pinkish in colour. Wow, can't say I've ever seen a pink hognose, but that's pretty cool. Anyway, that's the end of that story. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Yeah, some really good insights there into the subtle way that abuse can start in relationships. Either way, let's move on again. Okie dokie, we're on Am I the A-hole? This one was written by a throwaway account, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for sending a strongly worded private message to an individual that uses our macarons for her own online baking business? I, a 24 female, started this small online baking business almost 3 years ago. I'm currently pursuing an advanced degree and have given all the rights to my older sister, 27. We're officially registered as a bakery in our town. I am responsible for updating the monthly calendars and editing photos that are being posted on our Insta and Facebook. I'm in charge of the PR, so I have access to both accounts. I noticed that we have a regular customer who frequently orders our French macarons. No big deal. Then I got a little sus when she started asking for specific colours while sending cake inspos. When I did a little digging, lo and behold, she has her own online cake business too. She was also using our macarons on her cake, repeatedly. At first I was like, this isn't new. I asked someone else to probably credit us and we got tagged repeatedly for the macarons we made. It was so simple, so I messaged the said customer and asked them the same thing. The customer agreed. Well, I just discovered that what this girl did was literally tag us in a single photo. We don't pop up at all on the caption, no mention of us or our name alongside the macarons that we made. We can't even share it. It was pretty obvious that she didn't want us to have any association with her cakes. To be honest, my sister's macarons were the reason her cakes look well made. This is probably no big deal for you guys out there, but this is a small town, and only my sister and another local bake shop makes them. They're pretty difficult to master. I got upset as hell when she recently posted a photo of her latest menu featuring our macarons. It literally says 6 pieces macarons on her cakes. That's the quantity that we sell. I saw red and immediately typed this message. Hi ma'am, we saw your posted photos and I think it's a bit unfair to advertise that you include 6-piece macarons on your cakes, but nowhere did it say that we bake them for you. Albeit unknowingly and without our permission, we had to do our own digging. Those are our macarons. You are willingly deceiving your customers by purposely omitting that another small local business produces these high-quality baked products for your cakes. If you're going to continue using our French macarons for your products permanently, it is only right that you place our name alongside the macarons each time you use them. Example, 6-piece macarons by our shop. A good baker knows how to properly credit the local businesses that she employs. It's a small thing, but very thoughtful nonetheless. I hope you'll do the same for your future transactions with us. My sister thought I was being rude, but I told her that I was just being stern. Her point was that our product is no longer ours once she puts it into her cake. I told her that it's different when it comes to baked goods. She's literally taking credit for her hard work. So, am I the a-hole? Edit, forgot to say that every time we get credited on our products, they get thanked and shared on our page for exposure. It's how we support other local businesses. It's common courtesy. Second edit, we make macaron cakes too. One of our main selling points is the fact that we make custom cakes, which highlight our high-quality macarons. To those people making an argument that the macarons are an ingredient, it's not. Macarons are a finished product. It is not equal to flour, sugar, or any raw material. We're not Oreos or insert big-name brands here. We're just a small business. Yeah, surely the least you can do is credit the bakery. How hard can that be? Let's go to some comments. Not the a-hole. It would be one thing if you made and sold cake decorations specifically and she was a buyer, but you're both bakeries. Presumably you also make cakes. Honestly, it's deceitful as hell to do it without asking in the first place, but you're willing to overlook that if she would just give credit. She's apparently not willing to do that. Opie says, yep, we bake all kinds of stuff. Cakes, brownies, cookies, you name it. Even cakes with macarons on top. And Opie comments on why it's important to credit others in the food industry. I don't even know how to answer your first question because it doesn't make sense. If I liked the food that a restaurant created, do I expect them to credit all of their sources? Of course not. That would be ridiculous. But I would credit the restaurant or their chef for their skills for making an end product that's amazing and delicious. Have you ever had experience selling online with a niche community? Because in our local online food business community, it's common courtesy to tag the services that you use, the specially made toppers, etc., to support other small businesses. We do have logos in our macaron boxes, if that's what you meant. It's a different thing because she's literally reselling the macarons and rebranding them as her own product. It would have been polite if she'd informed us in advance, but she purposefully omitted the fact. Just because it's a baked good doesn't mean this person isn't passing off someone else's skill and work as their own. There are tons of resellers everywhere, such as Krispy Kreme donuts, but it's not ethical to claim their donuts as yours, right? Now for an update. Hi guys, it's been a few months since I last posted. I didn't expect that my original story would get some attention. I noticed that some were asking for an update, so this will be short and sweet. Like my sister's macarons maybe. I just want to thank everyone for their honest opinions and suggestions. I let my sister read the entire thread as well. She realised how crappy it was that her hard work was getting passed off as the baker's efforts, especially when it took her 2 to 3 years to master the macarons. To this day, her macarons are one of her best sellers. Plus, she's the only known macaron baker in the city, so she's fully aware of the true value of her hard work. My sister and I actually considered some of your ideas and opinions on the matter, but thankfully, the baker I mentioned before resolved things herself. She apologised to my sister for not mentioning our business. It took a couple of months, but I'm happy to say that she finally credited our business as the makers of the macarons. She even pinned the post on her business page where it clearly states that the macarons on her macaron cakes were made by us and our brand. She continues to be our customer to this day. That's it basically. Thanks again. And some final comments. Your sister should consider putting a baker's mark on her macarons anyway. It's super cute and shows you go that extra mile, and free advertising. Opie says, we're actually considering it. We're still looking for suppliers who can make this possible though. Thank you. You could make a crude version with craft wire and a hammer. It's just got to get hot enough to leave a mark on your item. You could even just do a stamped impression instead of a heated one. Opie says, yeah, that's what we were thinking. A cute little stamp of our logo on the macarons. My sister thinks the same thing too, actually. Maybe we'd use edible ink, but it can get tricky. We don't want it to look messy. We have different colours for the macarons, so we'd have to experiment too. Yeah, that's a great idea to, solidify your product. But yeah, it's good to hear that the other business owner came to her senses and started crediting them. Like Opie said, it's a small town and small businesses like this need to help each other up, not put each other down. Anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments. Alright, well that's it from me today. I hope you guys enjoyed those stories. Thanks for making it to the end, and I'll see you all in the next video. Have a good day. Cheers.